Well, hello, welcome. So, the Connected Digital Economy Catapult. What are the catapults in general? So that I'm going to try over the next 10 minutes or so to give you an idea of what the catapults are, which are probably slightly more complicated to grasp than some of the others, which have obviously been very simple already. But really, the kind of single line for it, the Digital Catapult specifically, is a national centre to rapidly advance UK's best digital ideas to market. So a bit more background. There are currently 7 catapults that exist, and they exist in all sorts of different areas. We're the Connected Digital Economy one, but there are things like offshore renewable energy, future cities, satellite applications. There's all sorts of different ones on different sectors of the UK economy that they focus on. All set up really to drive future economic growth within those specific sectors. Ours is looking at obviously best digital ideas. That's why we're here today, to try and accelerate them into the UK market, and we'll talk a bit about how that would practically happen. Now, how we do this, I suppose, if you think about the mix of Innovate UK, IC Tomorrow, KTN, you've kind of got, sitting at the top really is Innovate UK, who lead the strategy, and they do a lot of the funding and all those sort of bits and pieces. The KTN are really there to, as John was talking about, to create the networks, to bring people together, to share knowledge, to do all that sort of good stuff. Now, where the catapults sit, the catapults are designed really to be a kind of practical output, if you like, to try and actually build things, to create things in the market. Yeah, so we will look at building platforms, for example, APIs, data stores. We'll bring labs together. We'll convene people, whatever it may be necessary that we think is the best way to try and actually help businesses get to market better. Here's a lovely little line from our CEO, which I should reproduce really. So the idea is that we collaborate, unlock and accelerate. So we create collaborations with universities, businesses and other not-for-profits to jointly unlock the major challenges in the data value chain in order to accelerate large numbers of innovators to market. Now, before I get into this bit, I suppose I should just very quickly say what we are not. So in differing from Innovate UK, for example, we are not a funding agency per se, so we don't provide direct funding. We can provide in-kind resources to work on projects in consortia and those sort of bits and pieces. Equally, we're not an accelerator and we're not an incubator, although we work very closely with those sort of partners. As it says up here, we never really work alone. We work together by bringing together a wide range of partners who are interested in digital economy. So that could be large businesses, startup and SMEs, and SMEs really are where we are focused. So ultimately, the output of most of our products is about getting SMEs to market, new entrants into sectors, making businesses sustainable, that sort of area. But we also work very closely with research and the academic community as well as part of that. So obviously, connected and digital could mean quite a lot, frankly, particularly nowadays. So what the Connected Digital Economy Catapult has done is it's focused down. And really where we are focused is on the value chain, the data value chain. So that's around the generation, so the kind of data being generated, the transport of that data around, what the knowledge and insight is coming out of that particular data, then the outputs of that, what services are being made, the applications, the products, and then critically, of course, the value. How do we drive the UK economy off the back of this stuff? You know, how do people make their money? All that sort of good stuff. So even within the data challenge, data innovation chain, even that is fairly broad. So we have focused it down again into 4 core areas that we look at really, and any work we do is within these 4 challenge areas. Now these in themselves are fairly broad anyway, so hopefully it doesn't exclude a lot of people, but it's just important to realise that those are the sort of areas we do. Now, if you're looking at different areas, it may be more relevant to, I suppose, speak to Innovate UK, it may be more relevant to speak to a different catapult. But in our case, we look at building diverse data and content sets. Now that isn't necessarily big data per se, but it can be around pulling together of all sorts of different sorts of data. So I suppose city data is a good example of that, where you might have transport data and police data and weather data or whatever, or work we're doing around energy, for example, where there's all sorts of different energy sources. And what we will do is tend to pull all that together and create an output from that, whether it's an API, whether it's a data store, whatever it happens to be, depending on the project, that businesses can then come and sit on top of and actually innovate and make use of. The next one we focus on is content reuse and reducing licensing friction. So that's really about looking at the creative industries in the UK and the kind of wealth of IP and content that's created, but how do we unlock that better? How do we get it into digital? How do we create these new businesses on top? How do we enable the existing businesses or cultural institutions or whatever it happens to be to actually make better use of all the content and the great content they have, particularly in the UK where we over-index on those sort of things. The next area is around personal data, privacy and trust, which we perceive to be a pretty huge area. I suppose taken from the kind of Snowden revelations about people's data and their personal privacy, but also I suppose in a more future-looking way about the accumulated self and people's control over data and how we make use of it with wearables coming in, all that sort of stuff. And on that tip as well, really, the fourth area is next generation connectivity. That largely focused around the Internet of Things, but we also work in kind of the area of 5G, whatever that is, and various other bits and pieces. But really on that side, we look to try and build practical demonstrators and labs to help people make use of that. So then how do we accelerate these ideas to market? So we would look for major challenges or indeed opportunities that are slowing down UK digital business in data innovation. That's really where the Catapult sits. Where can we find these structural issues or opportunities, and can a public funded body come in and assist as part of a consortium to try and unlock these, to try and build something, to try and create an output that business can make use of. We work with innovation clusters across the UK to link up and again collaborate, and we'll make use of our Innovator Centre, which I'll talk a bit about in a second. And we will also do some good work hopefully around showcasing innovation ideas, great products, whatever it happens to be that's coming out, showcasing it not only to other SMEs but to big businesses and to academia and all that other stuff who might be able to get involved as well. One of the main things we will have really is the Innovator Centre. This is opening up in November time, based opposite the British Library up in London, and this will be a space where there will be space for labs, there will be an auditorium, there will be loads of showcasing spaces, there will be events going on all the time. There's places for you to come and speak to other people and learn and collaborate and do all sorts of good bits and pieces with them. We'll also be running something we're calling pit stops within there. And these are effectively like 2 or 3 week periods, or it could be one day. We will focus on a particular area. That could be connected products, that could be health, it could be whatever it happens to be. We will get a load of experts together, both from the Catapult itself and from outside, and look at bringing everything together and really give 2 to 3 weeks intensive training and study and creative work to try and get a proper output out of these things. So that's one of the big things that we're running out of that. So how do you engage? It's always the big question. So really, the way we were looking at it, for startups and small business SMEs, we were looking for partners and consortiums to help us build the platforms and indeed the initial ideas about these platforms in the first place. Obviously making use of the platforms and capabilities, which is kind of what we're here for people to make use and build their business on top of. Use of the Innovator Centre, and I suppose sharing the story through our website, which is again a kind of showcasing activity. Large businesses connect with us, so they can obviously connect via us, similar to the KTN or through the Innovate UK's work, connect with some of the really smart SMEs and innovative people who are working out there. They can sponsor some of our showcases, which is very nice if they can. And frequently they'll work with us on these specific projects and platforms and everything else that we're working on within our challenge areas. And also we run an industry secondment program to get people in to the Catapult who can specifically help SMEs in particular areas. Research academia, again, they will join in with the secondment programs, they'll collaborate on projects. So we do projects, but equally sometimes we can actually go in as bid partners. So if you're looking for bigger bids, we won't so much go into kind of IC Tomorrow because they're a bit low value for us, but the bigger Innovate UK bids or the EU bids, that sort of stuff, we can exist as partners within, if you wish, or you can come and talk to us about that if you're forming that sort of bid. And frequently we can also help to convene other partners within there, so we can bring in some of the research and academia, we can bring in other business, we can find other SMEs to try and form these consortia that we work with. Again, just finishing off that, yeah, so they will also, the academia will also come in and help us with the commitment to help the data scientists of tomorrow get support that they need, so we will run lots of comment on that. That's pretty much it. Now I know that's pretty complicated, so a lot of you might want to talk to me a bit later after about it, and we've got the slots, so please do take the time. All right, thanks.